Hi, I'm Chris Barber.
I'm Coleman Glenn.
I'm Grant Schnarr.
I'm Andy Dibba.
I'm Scott Frazier.
I'm Ray Silverman.
Question 5 is, who is God and how does Jesus fit into that picture?
If one believes in God, one believes that He is almighty, He's infinite, He's eternal, He has no beginning, no end, no spatial restrictions. He is everywhere, He knows everything, and He's all-powerful. God is one way to put it.
Perhaps we could be more specific. We sat down with different Swedenborgian ministers to address the most powerful philosophical and religious questions of all time, ranging from biblical contradictions to romance to the meaning of life. Welcome to Big Spiritual Questions. In this episode, we explore the identity of God and exactly how Jesus fits into that picture.
Well, at least for part of my life, I come from an Episcopalian background. And a phrase that I heard in that faith a lot was something which surpasses all understanding. And I kind of like that, when I think about what God is. Because if you think you have it down, if you think you can sort of box God in, you think you've got the definition that really captures what God is and who God is, step back. It's just a glimmer of the divine reality that really does surpass our understanding. That's constantly calling out to us to be understood, but at any given time, we only catch little glimpses of it. I depend on the concept that feels a little abstract sometimes, which is that God is love.
So God is love. And that's the simplest thing you can say about God. But love itself, if you just say love, you can't really picture love apart from some form it takes. And so if you think about love, maybe you think about a mother embracing a child or something like that. You can't think of love as an abstract thing.
Just to say God is love doesn't carry much more meaning than just to say He's infinite. So we have to say, what is the love that is God? And love has certain qualities that we can understand and identify. Love focuses on someone other than ourselves. If it only focuses on us, it'll be selfish. So love focuses outside of ourselves. Love builds relationships between people. When you love someone, you want to be friends with them. You may even want to marry them. Love is what brings people together. And then the third quality of love is that it wants to make people happy. If we love someone, we want the best for them. So really, when we think of God, we can think of all that love on an infinite, eternal, all-powerful scale.
And this is the driving force behind the universe, according to the teachings for the new church.
The problem is that we still have problems in our minds bringing that down into something that we can relate to. So when we think of Jesus, we think of God coming down and focusing all that love, all that infinity into one individual human being.
To really fully express Himself. At a point in time in history, He took on a human body to say, you want to know what I'm like? This is what I am like. This is the form of love. Here I am. And in taking on that human body, He showed us who He is. And so I believe that Jesus was and is God Himself, that His soul is that infinite love, and He is the fullest, perfect expression of infinite love. He is the way we can see the face of love.
Now, one of the things that's different about the new church's view of who Jesus is ultimately and how He fits into like the Trinity is that we believe that in every way that Jesus and God, or the Father, are the same person. And I think traditionally we've seen the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit as being three different people. And people have said, well, there are three people, but one essence, one God. And a lot of people scratch their heads and go, well, how does that actually work? What Swedenborg says is the Trinity is actually a trinity of aspects of God. That the Father is symbolic of the soul of God, the invisible love and wisdom of God. The Son, or Jesus, is how God shows himself to us, the body of God. And the Holy Spirit is not some separate person running around doing things. It's his Spirit, how he affects us. So the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are really three different aspects of God: soul, body, and influence on us. God has it, and so do we. We have a soul, we have a body, and we have influence on other people. That's the Trinity.
My brother had a bumper sticker on his car that I thought started this conversation nicely, and it was a simple bumper sticker. It said, "Jesus is Jehovah." So that's who God is. And so if you want to talk about, well, are they really the same person, and you want to give complicated answers, we can get into that. But the basic answer is there is one God. His name is Jesus. In the Old Testament, he gets called Jehovah. So the big idea is there's one person. In relation to the Old Testament God, Jesus sometimes gets portrayed as sort of a kumbaya Jesus, sort of a proto-hippie who's got a guitar and loves everybody. And yes, he loves everybody, but there was no guitar. He was confrontational, he could be rude at times, and he insisted people understand him on his terms, which when you look back on the Old Testament God, lines up pretty nicely. Furthermore, when Jesus Christ is asked, so what are the big commandments? He quotes the book of Deuteronomy and the book of Leviticus. He's just repeating himself in the New Testament to be clear, so that we have an idea that God is all-powerful, Old Testament, and that God is a person who loves us, New Testament. It's one guy.
And people say, well, if Jesus was God, who was ruling the universe while he was in the world? Well, it doesn't quite work that way. If you imagine the sun shining and you take a magnifying glass and you focus it down onto a leaf, you can start a fire. It doesn't mean that the sun isn't shining up there anymore. It's just focused down through that magnifying glass and causing the fire. And Jesus was received the fullness of the divine coming down into his life. And so Jesus is the physical manifestation of God.
So Jesus Christ is God on earth, or the incarnation of God, or you might say an avatar. If you're looking at this in the context of world religions, God has from time to time manifested on earth. In the Hindu scriptures, he came as Rama, then he came again as Krishna. But in Christianity, he came once as Jesus Christ. And if you're a Christian, that's your avatar. That's your incarnation of God. And what's amazing is that if you study Hinduism, it says explicitly that God comes at the lowest point in the human race to destroy ego and to establish Dharma. And Dharma is the law. Swedenborg says almost the same thing. Establishing the new church is establishing Dharma. Dharma is the central law of your being, the law of what it means to be a human being, how to live, and what living is for. This Dharma. It's an amazing thing to me. So who is Jesus? Well, Jesus comes to earth, God comes to earth in human form to show us how to live, gave us an example, and gave us the truth so that we could live according to that truth and become the finest people we can be.
When we see Jesus, we see the divine of God, but we also see the human of God, the Jesus who walked in this world, who slept in boats and was crucified and rose from the dead. And that Jesus is a person just pretty much like us, but at the same time, he's God. And that makes it possible then for us to identify with him.
When I read the story of Jesus, I get to see God made flesh, the Word made flesh. I get to see God walking around and doing stuff and loving people and suffering. I get to see God on earth in a way that I can really connect with that divine awesomeness. And when I come to an understanding of God in that way, that's a God that I can know. And I mean, I don't know if we'd be friends. I wonder if I would accept him as he walked by and said all of his stuff about just how much I need to give up. I've got a lot of work to do, I think, before I would gladly receive everything that he has to say. But he, at least in that image of Jesus, he gives me something that I can work toward and see myself sitting with and see myself serving alongside. That's how I understand God and Jesus. I don't know if it's a satisfying answer, but it feels very personal to me.
God is love. Yes, he's omniscient and omnipresent, the Alpha and the Omega. But as love and in the form of Jesus, we can connect to him and follow his path. Of course, these are our beliefs, but we'd love to hear your thoughts. So, leave a comment below and we can learn from each other. If you'd like to learn more about our church, check out our website at newchurch.org. And if you're interested in talking with other people about spiritual topics like this, consider heading to grandhumanproject.org and finding a group that seems right for you. Thanks again for watching, and stay well.